we'll make a start in a second if you want, Sarah.
Yeah, whenever you want.
Yeah, I think we'll go now then. So just again, thank you everyone for dialing in. Basically, I'd just like to sort of just say if we could do a few housekeeping rules. I know everyone's already got their computer set to mute, so if you just keep it that way, just so there's no interruptions during. Essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to be recording this as well for everyone who didn't have a chance to join us or couldn't join us or busy or what may it be. So if you do want a copy of the webinar afterwards, feel free to sort of just drop us a message and we'll send that over to you. So just to introduce ourselves, my name's Lewis. I'm a part of the host at High Impact. So I work in the business development team, and I'm accompanied by Sarah, who works in our curriculum team. If you want to say hello.
So hello.
So Sarah's basically going to sort of be presented for us now. So I'll hand over to Sarah now, and she will get us underway.
Okay, yeah, I'll sort of hopefully not shout next slide too much at Lewis, who's in charge of the slides. So I'm Sarah. I'm one of the teachers and consultants with High Impact, and I'm also the High Impact CEOP ambassador, which means I've done some training with CEOP, and we're going to use some of their stuff this afternoon and look at some of their resources and then some other resources that are available. So we'll look at sort of children's online lives, the social web framework, the CEOP resources, Common Sense Media, some other ones like Project Evolve, some of the key strategies for digital literacy, and then ways that you can report concerns. But if you've got any questions, so stick them in the messages, and if I can answer, I will. And if not, we will get back to you on them. So next one, Lewis. So CEOP is the Child Exploitation Online Protection Agency, and they work with the National Crime Agency to produce resources for children to use and for teachers to use and for parents to use. So on the next slide, it gives you a bit of information about that. So their aim is to increase professional knowledge of child online sexual abuse and how we can respond to it through education, through teaching, through safeguarding. Their aim is also to increase children's knowledge and skills and resilience and make them safer when working online and know how to get help when they need it. And they also aim to give parents and carers a better knowledge of the skills that they need to help their children. So they've got lots of resources out there, which we will look at in a little bit. So firstly, their vision and values. So next bit, Lewis. Thank you. They have 6 values which all their courses, training and resources aim to cover. So the first is safeguarding. We've always got to put the children as our priority and their well-being. They aim to approach all the resources and things they provide through the perspective of the child. So we need to let children start conversations. We need to try and better understand what the online world means to them and from their perspective rather than just us as adults. And we need to help children to explore positive opportunities as well as the risks. It shouldn't all be doom and gloom. We need to promote dialogue, understanding through looking at young people's lives, finding out where they feel safest, when they feel able to be listened to. We need to understand and know that sort of they can trust us as adults and who they can go to if and when they need help. We need to empower children and young people. They've got a right to be protected from harm, and we need to support them, build their knowledge and their skills, their confidence, and help them identify the risks and support when they need it. We shouldn't frighten or scaremonger children. It's very easy to be very doom and gloom and to panic or kind of go on about the sort of maybe more shocking aspects of the internet. We need to not be alarmist. It can be risky, it can be ineffective. And so we should avoid shocking children and young people and their families and sort of, not scaremonger. And finally, we need to challenge victim blaming attitudes because we all have a responsibility to help protect those children and make sure that we look at them as not the victims in certain situations. We need to help them understand it's not their fault if they've been harmed and build their confidence. It's very easy to say, you shouldn't have been on that website, you shouldn't have been doing this. we need to give them, challenge that as they're victims in certain situations, and we need to challenge those attitudes. So about 2 slides further on, we've got children's online lives. My first question, if you want to stick any comments in the chat, any popular online activities that you know children you currently work with are accessing, whether it's websites, apps, games, anything that you know is either a current issue in your school, popular in your school. I was at school the other day and we were chatting, and yeah, Roblox, that was my first comment. In my house, it's Roblox and Minecraft are the, yes, not issues necessarily, but things very much aware of. I think younger ones, Roblox, Minecraft, very popular at the moment. Yes, Snapchat, definitely with the older kind of upper key stage 2, going into key stage 3, Snapchat is a massive thing again at the moment. There's a new one that I've come across recently, Be Real. That's another one to be aware of, that started to sort of crop up. Lots of social media ones that children are using, maybe ones that we're less likely to use. Lots of children very much sort of use WhatsApp, things like that. They use Snapchat a lot, possibly less likely to be on things like Facebook, but doesn't mean we shouldn't be aware of them. If you think of any, or you've come across any that I might not be aware of yet, do let me know, because there's always ones I want to look into and find out how they're affecting the children we work with. And so we need to be aware of what children are accessing online, what activities they're using, and how we can help them be better protected when they're using them. Things like Roblox, it's very easy to access. It's very easy for children to chat to other people. It's also being aware of different things like Xbox. So we need to know that they're using things like their Xboxes and PlayStations to chat to different people. I'm being given a message. Yes, it's an online course. Unless there's anybody in the meeting room. But yes, can come down and listen to me. Sorry. We have a live in-person attendee, which has just confused me slightly. Sorry. So, Lewis, if you could show the next slide about how do people get online. So the next one, that's it. So we need to be aware of how children are accessing the internet. 99% of children went online last year, and they were mostly using mobile phones. In the various age groups, so the youngest children, about 17% of children aged 3 to 4 have their own mobile phones. 28% of 5 to 7-year-olds, and then 98% of 8 to 11-year-olds. I can't multitask, have their own mobile phones. That's an awful lot of the children we teach who have access to their own mobile phone, not just using parents, but their own. Children early years and primary age are more likely to use a tablet to go online, but over 90% of children aged sort of 12 or more, if you're looking at our year 6s upwards, will predominantly use their phones to go online. And it's being aware of that and the different ways they're accessing the internet. So on the next slide, it's some feedback from the children and parents study that looked at how they feel about being online. Of the children interviewed, aged 3 to 17, they were more likely to feel positive than negative, and that's a really good thing. We tend to focus on the negatives online. 80% of those children in high school used online services to support their well-being, looking for support on things like relaxation, sleep, loads of different stuff. So again, lots of positives that have come out of their internet use. Just let someone into the call. More than a third of children from 8 to 17 though had seen something worrying in the last 12 months. And 98% of children over the age of 8 said they had come across or felt pressure to be popular online. I think that's a massive issue we need to be aware of, that there's a lot of pressure on children to share things maybe they wouldn't feel comfortable with, to do things they wouldn't feel comfortable with in order to gain those likes, in order to gain popularity. And that's talking to 8-year-olds upwards. They're feeling that pressure to either like, watch, share, or do things they don't feel comfortable with. But of all those children having that access to the internet and online lives, only a third of them actually knew how to report something that had gone wrong or something they felt uncomfortable with. And then only 14% of children had ever actually reported an issue. So there's an awful lot of children who have got concerns when they're online, but they either don't know how to report them, or they're not reporting them even if they do know what opportunities there are. So we need to focus on the positives. There's a lot of negatives with using the internet that we tend to talk about, but we do need to look at the positives. So on the next slide, it shows you some of the opportunities, role models, careers, things we need to highlight. So we need to highlight that there are lots of opportunities for creativity and careers when using the internet. It can deepen their relationships with family and friends. There are lots of opportunities for learning, for gaining support, and for engagement in world issues and getting their voice heard. So we shouldn't lose sight of these opportunities when we talk to children. We need to focus on being safe online, but we also need to reflect their perceptions of the internet. Otherwise, we just end up scaremongering, and that's not effective. So we need to make sure we acknowledge that the internet is a fun and exciting place to be. There are lots of prospects for their health, well-being, job opportunities, careers in the future, but they need to know the risks and how to manage those risks. So in the age groups that we cover in primary, 0 to 3, those children tend to have a lack of skills of processing information, and the digital device for them is a plaything. It's something we give them for them to play on. As they start to get slightly older, 3 to 5-year-olds have more of a sense of right and wrong, or are starting to develop a sense of right and wrong. They can learn a little bit more about how others feel and have some awareness of social rules, but they're not aware of the dangers they're likely to encounter, and they're definitely not ready for self-managed tech use. And a lot of children, sadly, are just given an iPad and are not managed, and it's making teachers aware of that, parents aware of that, that while watching YouTube videos is brilliant, and, you know, Peppa Pig playing back to back will keep your child entertained for a while, if it's self-managed, they don't know how to stop it when things that are inappropriate come on. Those videos will just keep playing and playing and playing, and it won't always be the next video being appropriate. So of this sort of research that was done, over 50% of 3 to 5-year-olds had used a messaging site or an app. That's an awful lot of children who are using some form of social media. And 24% of those children had their own social media profile. And those have been set up by adults for their own reasons, or whatever reason they've chosen, but those have been set up by adults. And it's making them aware, parents aware of the sort of implications of that and the safety that goes with that. Of primary age children, looking at sort of lower key stage 2, they're managing their thinking and emotions a bit more. They're learning more about the complexities of relationships, but there's more opportunities for hero worship, following those celebrities, fixating on people they think, for right or wrong reasons, are sort of showing the things they want to be doing. These children are more curious about how things work. Their technical skills, however, will often outpace their judgment. They are frequent users of technology, but their online safety knowledge and critical thinking skills are limited. And they're more likely to be accessing unwanted and unsuitable content. And then when we get into our upper key stage 2, those children are more aware of social pressures and expectations. So they've got more critical thinking skills, but they're not necessarily aware of their digital footprint. They need to know that what they're doing now will remain on the internet forever. It is there and it can't be undone easily. So they need to be more aware of that. So they are more aware of what's right and wrong, but not necessarily what they're putting out there will be there for good. They don't always understand how the apps and platforms are designed, so they can be quite impulsive. So this age group of children are perfectly matched for reward loops that are built into lots of the games and activities used. Just one more, just another bit, just another bit. And they don't understand. It's the impulsivity. Well, if I just do this, it'll be all right. It's just one more thing. They don't consider the long-term consequences. So again, this online, this digital footprint. So online arguments and drama, things spread really quickly, sharing things they shouldn't and then regretting it. It's really easy to do. It's very impulsive and they don't see the consequences. And they're aware of the importance of image, and social media is starting to play a big role in that. And we're dealing with that much more in key stage 2 than we used to. The majority of children under the age of 13 have had at least one social media profile of some sort. That can be from things like Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram. Over half those children have used a live streaming app, and over 69% of them use and play games online. And they're not just playing those games online, but they're chatting to people online, messaging them through those games, and getting involved in this sort of idea of these reward loops. So it's all things we need to keep in mind when we're talking to children about internet safety. We don't want to scare them. We don't want to turn this into frightening them over everything. But we do need to be aware of the activities they're undertaking, that they are using tablets and phones an awful lot more, that they are using games, and that they're accessing all of this. So CEOP have kind of grouped it and called it the social web framework, how we can use what we know within our settings. So it's a simple tool. It breaks down apps into 4 key areas and functions, and it helps us to get better understanding of how different apps and sites work and what risks they present to children. So CEOP have sort of used this, and within resources, they kind of group activities within the 4 areas of viewing, sharing, chatting, and friending. So viewing, they try to focus on the benefits. The benefits are that children view the internet, they can be entertained, they can learn more, they can get information support. Can you do the next slide, please, Lewis? But there are lots of potential harms because anybody can post online. So it's teaching children to be critical in their thinking. Is this actually true? Did it actually happen? There are lots of inappropriate and sexual and violent content online. They need to be aware of the dangers of that. And they need to realise that content shared can be done with the intent of harm and grooming. Things aren't always shared for the right reasons or for the, as positives. So we need to talk about children, about what they're viewing online. We need to let them know they can talk to us if things are uncomfortable. We can make children aware of age restrictions on apps. We need to be aware of those. We can make parents aware, but adults have to, or adults are making those decisions about whether they're allowing those children to access those sites. So it's making them aware that the age restrictions are there for a reason, and maybe what those reasons are within that particular game or app. And it's important that we educate parents on this. So lots of the resources and things I'll share with you later, there's things within there that you can share with parents, making them aware of maybe the age restrictions on certain games and why those are there, and the things that we can put in place to protect children. So the first part of the social web is viewing. The next part is sharing. Some of the most popular apps and sites that we use make it very, very easy for children to share information that puts them at risk. So we need to talk to them about what they share and who can see it. Because the sharing means it can be fun, it can be creative, they can express themselves, but it's very easy to share online. They might feel pressured, uncomfortable, blackmailed into sharing things they don't want to. And there's unintended impact. It's very easy to share a picture of someone else they may not want shared. It's very easy to share details of someone else that they may not want out there. So we need to play up the benefits, but also make children aware of the possible harms and what things we shouldn't be sharing online. That's that private personal information, what we need to keep to ourselves. The third part is chatting. So children, young people have said they find it easier to disclose personal feelings and private information via chat. It's much easier to do it as a text, a WhatsApp, a Snapchat, than it is to face-to-face. So that's positive that they're sharing this information, they're chatting with each other, but it means they're often sharing things that they probably shouldn't be. They're sharing too much personal information. It's inappropriate. There is pressure to do or say things they don't want to. So we need to talk to children about what they're sharing, how to be part of those wider communities, who they're chatting to, and try and make them aware of who those people are. Is it who they say they are? If you've got lots of friends on Xbox, are their usernames, do they actually match with the person in your class? There's been an increase in children using services like Childlines, online chat with counsellors, and that's a really positive way of sharing their issues online and chatting to people. But it makes it a lot easier for offenders to build relationships and groom children, young people. So there are pros and cons to all of this. And then the final part of the social web is friending. So it can maintain existing friendships, particularly as children move from primary to high school. It can help them make new friends with similar interests, and they can share their experiences. But the potential harms that the people aren't always who they say they are. Usernames don't necessarily match a person's real name. Do you know that's actually them? There are lots of unhealthy friendships out there, and there's, again, that pressure to do things they don't want. Social media can be seen as a tool for children to quantify their popularity. How many likes have you got? If I got more than you, what do I need to do to get those extra likes? They want more friends, they want more followers. And it becomes then this competition of what do you need to do to get more of those likes and those followers. Children frequently refer to their online contacts as friends, but they might be people they've never met face to face. And if you've never met them face to face, do you actually know who they are? Are those people who they say they are? Or is it someone out there who is out for, you know, the wrong reasons? Young people often use social sites that are popular, where they send friend requests, they start conversations, they chat privately. And it's making sure that children understand the differences between online friends and offline friends, and know they can talk to us or other trusted adults if they're worried about socializing online. So there are lots and lots of positives to using the internet and online lives, but we do need to be aware of the consequences and the downsides of some of it. So resources. There are loads of resources available teaching children about digital literacy and being safe online. So we're going to look at a few different ones that we would recommend. First up is the CEOP resources. So CEOP education, and I will copy the link in here for you. CEOP it's free to register. I've put it in the messages. It's free to register. You can access lots of their resources in there. The resources are progressive, so they start from really young to sort of up into high school, Key Stage 3 and 4. So they're going to aim at certain age groups, but you obviously dip in and out as necessary to the ones that maybe suit your class or the issues that have come up. The resources for the younger age range are brilliant building blocks for the older ones. So you may well have come across Jessie and Friends. It's one we particularly recommend in early years, Key Stage 1. Lovely little cartoons with PDF books that you can download. Jessie has issues like she's left with by her dad leaves her watching some videos on sort of YouTube, and the next thing you know, a terrifying crocodile video comes up. It upsets her, she talks to him, and he talks about what to do. Nothing traumatic, but it's just that awareness of what do you do if you see something you don't like. She shares a picture in one of them. They share silly pictures that her and her friends have taken, and then they get embarrassed at school and they talk about that. Key Stage 2, we tend to use Play, Like, Share and Band Runner. So there's a group of friends who form a band, and various issues that ensue with their online lives and sharing information. And then further up, there are resources aimed at Key Stage 3 and 4, but maybe worth looking at if you have any particular issues in kind of year 6 of sending inappropriate pictures, social media and different websites they may be using. The core topic areas like healthy and unhealthy relationships, asking permission, recognizing tactics that might be used, and how to seek support. So those are lots of the CEOP resources that are linked to all the bits I've just talked about. Next up, we have Common Sense Media. So I will share the link to this. Common Sense Media has, share it in the right place, there we go. Common Sense Media have created a series of lessons for years 1 to 6 covering all aspects of digital citizenship. So each year group has up to 6 lessons. Those lessons include videos, lesson plans, vocabulary, slides. If you use the Nearpod website, there are lots of Nearpods, so the slides, but with interactive sort of quizzes and games and activities built into them. These are really good for using with children in class. On the next slide, it shows you the 6 different areas that they've covered. So it's media balance, privacy and security, digital footprints, relationships, cyberbullying, and news and media literacy. So they cover all 6 of these areas, there's different numbers of lessons depending on the number of year group, depending on the year groups you have. When you go onto the website, just be aware when you're looking at the lessons, there are American lessons and UK lessons. They are they're pretty much identical. The UK lessons have just got UK objectives in there and spellings. So just be aware it lets you switch between the two. So just be aware there are 2 different sets that are slightly different. They also provide activities you can send to do at home. There are timings for lesson plans, worksheets and things that you can do with children. So Common Sense Media is brilliant. And if you use planning that we at High Impact created, we use these as a core for our digital literacy lessons. Next up, Education for a Connected World. It's a framework that the government produced to equip children and young people for a digital life. It's non-statutory, but it can be used to support teaching in SRE, PSHE and computing. It can be used as an auditing tool, so you can evaluate what your existing provision is and then use that to develop training, improve engagement and develop an effective curriculum. So Education for a Connected World, on the next slide, it shows you a little bit about what it looks like. The framework focuses on 8 areas of digital citizenship. So they looked at the Common Sense Media topics, the 6 topics they had, and they've then broken it into 8 areas. So they use Common Sense as their framework, but broke it into 8 areas instead of 6. Each area is then in key stages. And each of those, you can see sort of just at the bottom of the slide, this one's the one for self-image and identity. This is the slide that goes with key stage 2. So you've got a column for year 3, 4, 5 and 6. And they've broken it down into really small detailed objectives. Really good if you want to audit what you're doing and find out where your areas sort of for concern and development are. So Education for a Connected World is a non-statutory document, but it's definitely one we need to be aware of. So resources that go with this. Project Evolve, I will copy the link for you. Project Evolve is, again, another free website you can register with, and it provides you with resources to support, I'll put the link in there, to support the 330 statements from Education for a Connected World. So each statement can be searched, and you can search by strand, year group, theme, topic. So you can go in and say, actually, we're using Common Sense Media. It's covering everything we need, but we want a really particular lesson on privacy because there's an issue maybe come up in class. So you can go on there and search for a really specific strand or a specific issue, and it will provide questions you can ask your class, tasks, suggestions, activity slides you can use. There's loads and loads and loads of information on there. So you could use that. Some schools use that as the framework for their teaching. Others have used it as a support for Common Sense Media, and they dip in and out and choose very specific activities for very specific issues or concerns or areas they want to focus on. There is a lot in there, and there's an activity for every one of those 330 statements. So it's a bit of a case of filtering out what you think suits you in school. So those are some of the key resources we would recommend. CEOP, we would recommend the Common Sense Media resources, Project Evolve to support Education for a Connected World. And so on the next slide, it just shows you a few of the key strategies for early years and primary. We need to supervise children's online activity and encourage parents to do the same. We need to make sure children know where to go for support. We need to know how within schools, our technicians need to know how to set privacy settings and content filtering, and how we can promote that with parents, that you can filter YouTube, you can block websites, you can restrict the amount of time children spend on certain devices or certain websites. And we need to encourage children to explore the internet together. It's better to chat to them little and often about it and about the issues they're coming across than teach 6 online safety lessons in September and never mention it again. We need to do that drip of what's important, what we want them to cover, where they can go for help, and keep reiterating it. And just because you've taught privacy and about passwords in September, if it comes up as an issue later on in the year, cover it again, cover it again. Often good to do through PSHE lessons and maybe class assemblies. It can be done through activities like that. And these again are obviously things we need to encourage with parents as well. So where can children and young people go for help? We need to let them know that there's trained professionals such as teachers, youth workers, social workers, any trusted adults should be able to help them or guide them in the right direction. The police emergency and non-emergency numbers are available, and that children could contact them if that's an area of concern. And there are lots of helplines services that they can access. So there are phone numbers, online portals run by charities, the government and not-for-profit organisations. And these are well worth sharing on your school websites, sharing with children and with parents and making them aware of what's out there. So on my last slide, there's some examples of helplines and services that you could share. These are really good to share on your school website, to share on any social media pages you have, to make children aware of who they can contact. They might not want to tell us, they might not want to tell their mums and dads, but if they know there's somewhere they can report an issue, then we're giving them some options. So CEOP have got the click CEOP button. It means children can report concerns about child sexual abuse and exploitation to the National Crime Agency. Report Remove is a free tool. It lets children report any nude or sexual images and videos of themselves that they think might have been shared online. Childline, who often come into school and talk, or often sort of provide lots of good resources we can share. It's free, private, confidential service. They can talk about anything that they want to. Trained counsellors are there online and on the phone. And as I mentioned earlier, that could also be done by sort of texting and messaging. So it gives children that opportunity to share without having to speak. And often they're keener to do that than do something face to face. And finally, the NSPCC are often excellent at coming into schools and sharing information on this. The NSPCC report Abuse in Education. It's a helpline that offers support and guidance to children and young people who've experienced or witnessed sexual harassment or abuse in schools or outside of schools. Those are all ones that are worth sharing, either with children, depending on the age of them. Sharing on your website, you can put links to the CEOP button so they can click on it and report if there's an issue. I know I've talked really fast this afternoon, but I'm aware it's a Monday afternoon. You've already had a long first day back. I've shared in the chat the link to Common Sense Media, the link to Project Evolve, and the link to Think You Know, where there's lots of resources. And these are all free to register with, and then you can download them and share them. There are lots of resources you can share with parents, sheets that you can send home, or you could send home as part of your sort of monthly or weekly newsletters. And those are all really good ideas to share them. If you need anything from me, though, just yell. All the details will be on at the end in a moment after Lewis has spoken. But honestly, just get in contact if we can help or put you in the right direction of any resources. And I am now going to let you stop having to listen to me for a few minutes and hand you back to Lewis.
Thank you so much for that, Sarah. That was brilliant.
Right, I took fast.
So as Sarah mentioned, then what we'll do is we will follow up sort of with those links. Like I said, obviously this is being recorded, so should you want to sort of get a hold of that, we can send that on just so you can sort of watch that back. So brilliant. So as Sarah just mentioned there, so the materials that Sarah's covered today are part of a wider support tool that we have called The Host. Essentially, what we've done is it was created by teachers for teachers, essentially looking to reduce teacher workload, enrich areas of your curriculum, provide sort of training and resources, kind of like what we've just sort of covered now, as well as CPD and sort of ongoing support. So obviously what we've sort of just covered now is part and parcel of something wider that we have. So just quickly, the Host, where it's sort of been used in schools, that we actually sort of have the Host implemented within the archive. Basically Ofsted have referred to it as gold dust. So where schools are utilising this particular platform where they've came across our sort of materials and support. They've referred to it as gold dust, which is obviously a testament to sort of the hard work Sarah and her team sort of put behind the scenes to sort of pulling that together. Obviously, for our sort of computing toolkit, which sort of would cover the likes of sort of eSafety, our particular sort of tools does help address sort of all the other subjects. So this is just sort of a flavour of what's in our particular sort of tool. So yeah, if you have got any questions on eSafety, or you would like to hear a little bit more about the host from myself, feel free to get in contact with us. Our sort of details are on screen there. I'm more than sort of happy to sort of just have a chat through sort of how we can work together with your school. I've just got a note here that we have got future sort of webinars sort of similar to this. We've got a STEM event that we're running in January. It's open to sort of any STEM leads. So if that's obviously yourself, or you know anyone in your school that would be interested, feel free to get in contact with us, and we can sort of send you the link on sort of how to get involved. So we've got partners including NFU, Chester Zoo, and West Cheshire Museums who are going to be a part of that. So if that is of any interest to you, obviously just get in contact and we can sort of share those details. But as I said there, just final thanks to Sarah just for her time and sort of presenting on that. So yeah, should you want to have a little chat and we can sort of explore the host or anything we've covered today, feel free to get in contact with us. So yeah, thank you again for your time. And we'll sort of follow up and send those links on an email and the recording. Should obviously you missed maybe a little bit at the beginning, or there's anybody else that